Today we're going to finish up the t-shirt dress, so welcome. So okay, let's get started. This is almost done. So what I did was, here it is. I finished. It's hard to see the sleeves. Peek over. So here's the little cap sleeves. And what I ended up doing was I ended up doing a Chanel finish on the bottom right here because of the fact that it was a little bit low on the arm's eye, so that when I folded it down, I just didn't want that much skin sewing, so putting a Chanel raises it up that 1/2 inch. So, and then the sleeve, didn't that turn out cute? So, and it's really, really comfortable. So, so what we're going to do is we're going to put in a vent or a slot or whatever you, I don't know what you call them these days. Here's one done on this side. Here's one finished on this side, and it's just a slot on the side, but yet it's nice and finished on the inside. Here's the inside, and the finishing was done on the serger. So what I did was, let me turn this inside out because we're going to do the other side today and show you how I hem it. So anyway, I ended up putting a little ribbon piece on the back because the problem I was having is every time I went to try it on, I couldn't tell the front from the back, and I'd inevitably put it on backwards. So I said, okay, we'll just put a ribbon back there. So yeah, here's the inside of the arm, or the sleeve. See, here's the cap of the sleeve, sewn regular, and at the bottom you can see the Chanel folded under. Okay, so you're going to get your iron out, and what you need, where's the side that's sewn, is you're going to sew that, mark where you want the top of the slot to go, or the, here we go. It's kind of stretchy and long. It's a long dress. So I just finished the seam. I finished the edges of the fabric with the serger. Okay, and then I sewed it with regular seam, just a regular stitch length, and I used my serger also to finish it, but I used my stretch stitch to sew. First you determine, you marked how high you wanted that vent to go, and I marked it with a pin. So here's my pin. So and from the arm's eye to the bottom of the slit, or to the top of the slit, excuse me, I did a stretch stitch so that that won't come out. From the part where I wanted it to open, I did a very long regular basting stitch. I think I used a 5mm long stitch to sew it closed. So my seam is closed. Okay. Then I'm going to take, and then of course I marked it with a pin. So we're going to take it to the ironing board. So I've got a little one here, and let me set this up, then I'll move the camera. Okay, so here's where I want the top to go. And I just tried it on and just put a chalk mark there, stuck a pin through. Okay, and then I'm going to press this seam open, or I pressed it open, so like here. What I want to do is fold back, open up this seam, and just tack it down. And you do know what I use for tacking. Elmer's washable school glue. It's wonderful stuff. So I just take a little bit, just pull this back. I've already pressed it once, but then just give this a little dab here. Doesn't need a lot of glue. Okay. Heat set it down. Is that warm? It's not quite warm enough yet. Give it another second. There, see, now it's stuck. It's not going to come out. Make sure I got all of it. Okay. Alrighty. Then we go to the sewing machine. Now the first thing I want to do, if we can see that, is where the pin is what I want. That's where it's going to end. So what I want to do is I want to stitch a very secure triangle. So let me just take the chalk And I'm just going to draw it just so you can see it about like that. Okay. I'm going to sew on the sewing machine a reinforcement triangle. That way, as you're walking, it's not going to ever want to rip past this spot. So I'm simply going to use a straight stitch. You could use a stretch stitch, but a straight will be fine. And I'm just going to stitch across and stitch that line. Okay, and it's hard to see because this is black thread and black fabric. And when I come this way, I'm just going to go back and forth, maybe an extra time. So I'm going to go reverse. You could put a bar tack there, but it's really not necessary. I've done, well, 3 steps of stitching. That's good enough. Okay, and I'm going to clip the extra threads out of the way. You want to see all threads out of the way at this point, because you don't want them, well, you'll see in a minute why. Okay, now we're going to go to the serger, because what we're going to do is I'm going to take this on the right side, and it's, well, let me mark this seam because it's really, really hard to see it. So I'm just going to take chalk. That's not chalk. Here's the chalk, just so I can see that seam line, because I know I'm going to be working on an angle, which means I'm not going to be able to see it. So I'm simply going to mark that so I can see it. You don't have to do this. Usually you can see your seam line or put lighting good enough to where you can see it. But I can't. That's not it. Here we go. Here, I'm going to cheat there because I can't see anything. I know that's a little blinding. And then up to, now I can't find where that other stitching went to. Here it is. Yeah, it's right here. Okay, because I can't even see where it ends. And I'm just marking. This is not necessary to do this. This is just so that you can see what I'm doing. Because I'm going to be sewing this, I'm going to be doing a cover stitch all the way on both sides, all the way from the hem to the reinforcement stitching. So let's set up. I'm going to set up the serger. So I've set up my machine for a narrow cover stitch, and being a narrow cover stitch, I am using, you can see this, the C2 and the C3 needle. See where my door is broken? It broke right here. So I have a new door on order. Okay, and I put my table on. And if you don't have a cover stitch, what you can do is use a twin needle and just use a regular sewing machine. Okay, so I'm going, now this is where it's nice to have the ovation or the triumph, because this is going to be a little tight in here. Now I'm going to turn this way so I can see what I'm doing, and maybe you can see it a little better. Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to make sure my blade is locked. I don't want to use the blade at all, and I want the table on. I've set it for cover stitch, and I did test the stitching earlier, so I'm just going to pick a spot. So I'm going to pick this inside edge of this foot as my guide, and I am just going to start stitching at the bottom. There we go. You don't want to stretch it, and like I said, same thing. If you're using a regular sewing machine, use a double needle. Or twin needle. Don't stop. Do that. Okay, we're being snotty already. I'll just get this long. Oh, I know why. There's thread caught under the machine, and that's why it wasn't moving. Okay. Whenever I'm doing a cover stitch, always pull your threads because you end up with a knot, and that's what happened. And they like to start in fabric and out of fabric, so I'm going to make sure I have a tail so that, you see how the last time the fabric went into the feed dogs area and caused an issue? Okay. But it sure is loud, and I'm not liking that sound, but it's going. Justin will have to do his magic. And I'm just going to stitch all the way up. And I'm keeping this seam right here on this inside. And if you've got the Evolve or the Evolution, you may have to fiddle around with this back here because it's, let me just come back a little bit, because it's wanting to jam and iron. And we should be nearly there. I'm not that tall. Oh, wait a minute. Where is it? There. Oh, there it is. There it is. There's my chalk mark. I'm going to stitch right up to the chalk mark. Okay. And even this belt sounds funny. It feels funny. Okay, so now I need to pull this out. And I'm going to pull this straight back because I want a long string. Now I can work the rest of the way out and cut it. Okay, so with a cover stitch, the stitches at the beginning of your seam are locked. The ones at the end are not locked. So in order to lock this seam, what I'm going to do is turn it on the back. There we go. I'm going to pull these threads through to the other side. I've got some extra ones here. So I have 3. Yep, it pulled through. So I have 3 threads. And I'm just going to take 2 and then 1 and tie a knot. That will secure the end and keep it from coming undone. Because a cover stitch is just an extension of the chain stitch, which does come undone. There. And I can either weave those in or just cut them. I'm just going to cut them. Leave about a 1/2 inch tail. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay? And since I had so much trouble last time, I'm going to do a starter. Okay, and now this time I'm going to use this side of the foot. Raise that up under here. I have a little bit of room to play. There we go. And now the same thing. And there's my seam, although the chalk's pretty much worn away. And here's near the end. Boy, that hand wheel's hard to turn. This is when you know it's time to bring your machine in, when things don't feel right. Okay, and again I'm going to grab the threads straight back. Hold on to the threads. Come on. There we go. Pull it out. And I don't know why it's doing that. Something it's funky. Okay. Cut the front leader off. Okay, and once again, these threads from the back. That's why you want to trim all threads before you get started on this. Okay, I'm only seeing 2. There's the third one. See if I can get it through. If you can't get it through and I can't find it. See, I have one thread on the front. I don't want to leave it there. So this is when you take a needle here and a thread, and just feed it through the back. Sometimes they get stuck in like this one. Okay, and now I will tie the 3 together. 2 against 1, that's fine. Alrighty, clip. Alright, then I'm going to take my seam ripper, pull that seam apart, and I'm just going to pull those out. So I'm just going to pull this out. There we go. It's probably another piece of thread I have to pull out too, so here it is. And see how, extra thread, there. And see, it is nice and finished on the inside. And see, it looks very neat from the outside as well as the inside. And now we're ready to hem. So, I'm not going to do the whole hem. So you would, you know how to do a hem. You just try it on and you determine how far to fold it up. I'm just going to do it a little bit because I haven't tried this on. This is where it helps to have a buddy to help you do this. Let me grab my pressing surface. Okay. And you would determine, and most of the time with a knit, I'm going to use a press cloth, and I have to cut about 4 or 5 inches off of this anyway, so I'm just going to do it as if it was a little tiny hem. And so you would, again, you would determine where it's going to press, and usually I will, you'll have your pins and you just press it down. Okay, then you, guess what? Glue. And just lay this on, and just the end. Doesn't need much. You can see the crease. Now it'll stay. When you get to the edges, right here. Let's just say there's my hem. See, I don't want that sticking out like that. See how this, can you see that? No, you can't. Okay. See how that, this hem looks unruly right there? I'm not liking that. So what I would do is I would, again, hem it, or glue it up to about 1 inch away. And press it in. Okay, I want this, there's a piece of thread, I want this to come in. So you can actually take the glue, like that, sort of fold it in a little bit, and press that right along the edge so that it's hidden. So I'm essentially folding that nicely. If there's a little pleat, who cares? It's on the inside, and that will press away anyway. Okay, so now that's ready to sew. Okay, see how it looks neat from this side? Then you would take it again, determine how wide you want this hem, And because most of the time on the hems I will do a wide cover stitch, but because this fabric is so squishy and nasty, it wants to tunnel really bad. So therefore I'm going to use a narrow so you get a little bit less tunneling. And so we're going to go ahead and just do a cover stitch. Let me put this down. Okay, and then I would just take this, just sew through that to start it, because it's loud. Oh my goodness, it shouldn't sound like this. Get near the end, and again just there we go. Okay, I'm going to stitch that far, and that's it. And do the same thing I did before. And something sounds loose in there. Well, you would tie in the back, and then you would trim this excess off, and then your hem would be done. Now I'm not going to let that stay because it's not the right hem for me, so I'm going to pull that out. If you have any questions, send me an email at waltzquilt, that's WALTZQUILT, the two things I like to do the best, which is my Viennese waltz and to quilt, at yahoo.com. So I will see you. Have a great week. See you later. Bye.